Hi everyone, and welcome to Fort Worth. My name is Daryl Geiken, and I want to introduce you to a new fuel management system. As many of you can remember, this is our old data collection pedestal, and was put in here about mid-1990s. This old system was very slow, very cumbersome to use, and used an old phone modem to transfer data. It was real slow to collect data and also very hard to produce reports. What aeronautics is doing is what many companies are doing nowadays. They're streamlining the process. They're taking a very broken process that may be different at Marietta, may be different at Fort Worth and Palmdale, and mixing them all to one. That's what we're doing here today. We're mixing one broken process, or three broken processes, into one new unified streamlined process. This is our new fuel management system, FuelMaster. FuelMaster is a tool that we can use that at all three sites, Marietta, Palmdale, and Fort Worth, to collect data regardless where you're at. So if you were in Fort Worth and wanted to travel to Palmdale, you could still get fuel at that same vehicle with the same type of equipment. I want to introduce you to my team. This is David Baker. He was my project control manager. He was very instrumental in making sure that our budgets were met. Our time crunches were held tight, which was quite a struggle at times. I want to also introduce you to two representatives from FuelMaster, Pat Golf and Ken Stovall. Ken Stovall's from Stovall Corporation. He was our general contractor that actually did the hands-on install. Pat Golf was the supplier from FuelMaster, and he was our go-to guy, especially when it came to needing parts in a timely manner. So anyway, Pat, we got the unit, we got the pedestal, we got all this equipment. Now, what do we do with it? How does this work? How's it going to help aeronautics?
Great, thank you, Daryl. Especially, I just wanted to thank you. We're really proud to be the system of choice for Lockheed. As many of y'all know, your largest customer is also our largest customer, which is the United States Air Force. A lot of people are not aware that this system is built exactly the same way that we build it for the Air Force. You're going to find that the system is going to be very easy to maintain, and most of all, it's very easy for the operator to produce the exact data that you're looking for. The information that you're going to get from the transactions from now on is just going to be 100% accurate.
Great. So no more badging in and just fiddling with numbers up on the screen to make me get gas, huh?
We do not need the operator or the driver to have any input whatsoever. So
fantastic.
It will make life much simpler for everyone.
Ken, so you and I have put many hours into this project. So we got all this equipment. What kind of planning and whatnot went into this project to make it work?
Well, it didn't take much, Daryl, because the FuelMaster is designed to be upgraded from any existing system. And as you did state, it was on dial-up modem. And of course, we upgraded it to the high-speed network, which we went wireless communication instead of fiber optic, which saved thousands of dollars and kept him in his budget.
Well, thank you for that. I'm sure many managers appreciate that also. Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate you coming out today and talking with us. What do you say? Well, let's go inside and program some AIMS units and learn how to install this stuff.
Sounds great, Daryl. Let's do it.
You basically got three systems to install: a Type A, which is more for this vehicle right here with the rectangular AIMS OBD plug. You got a Type A1 kit, which is for hardwire, and you got a Type B kit here for the your Peterbilts and your heavier trucks. I guess we're going to start with a Type A on this vehicle here. This is your OBD plug. Here's your cable to go from your OBD to your fuel ring, which we're going to route through the vehicle. Here's your fuel ring. I call it an interconnect module. That goes from your fuel ring to your cable going up to your Ames unit. And this is your Ames unit, pretty much the brain of the whole operation. What we got here is an EA85 vehicle, and this fuel ring is not going to fit in this compartment because of the size. But in the FuelMaster installation manual, there are actually different size fuel rings for that give a different OD and ID. In fact, here we go right here. Here's the magical. There's one little smaller that will actually fit around this neck. What we're going to do now is open up the inside, the access to the back of the vehicle, to where you can actually get your hand around and find where that fuel neck is, because you've got to drill a hole through here to get that cable through, and you want to make sure there's no wiring or fuel lines or vapor lines. And basically, okay, check that right here. You got to make that hole big enough for this connector to go through it. So that's pretty much all of a 1/2 inch unibit. Just like that. Okay, I think we made our hole big enough. Drop it through. Okay. And then silicone sealant, something like that, something fuel proof that you can fill this hole back up so vapors don't enter the vehicle. That's pretty much it on the fuel ring. Okay, we just got through running the cable through from the fuel sensor ring through the hole we just got through drilling. And now what we do is we attach it to the interconnect module. There's only one way to do it. It's got a little foam seal. If you're doing this outside the vehicle, a little dielectric grease for extra waterproofing. And we've run our cable up to our Ames unit up front under the trim and the carpet to keep it protected. Now, if you do this outside the vehicle, you'll have a wire loom around it, zip tied where tire, drive shaft doesn't rub on it. It connects the same way, and it's basically clocked where it can only go together one direction. And they're getting a little dielectric grease. And once you've got that done, you basically roll all this up and get you a zip tie and tie it somewhere secure where it doesn't rattle, and then pop your panel back together. We've connected the gray cable to the fuel sensor ring at the back. We run it up through the vehicle behind the carpet in the trim. You basically tuck it down, keep it protected, snap the trim back in. Here's your cable ready to hook to your Ames unit. This cable is shielded, so it shouldn't interfere with any other wiring in the vehicle. Now we're going to show the installation of the Ames unit. The way this Ames unit's set up, you can run, like on a bigger vehicle, dual tanks, but we're only running one gas tank on this vehicle, so you'll plug into this corner port. There again, it's clocked. It will only go in one direction. Okay, we've got our OBD cable to plug into the vehicle. This cable is designed where you can plug it in. You still have your port to plug in your analyzing machine, so you're not having to unplug the FuelMaster to do any diagnostics on the vehicle. You have to find the connector on the vehicle, snap this into it. And there again, this will only go in one way. You snap it in, and now you see the module come alive. Now you got to this point, you want to find a good location to put it under the dash, preferably where you can read these lights. If you had to put it in a hidden spot, it doesn't hurt to have it in a place where you can like lay a mirror below it, because these are your diagnostic for your unit. You don't want to get it around a brake pedal, a throttle cable, something that'll bind and cause an accident with the vehicle. Just tuck it up under there real well and zip tight real good where it doesn't come loose. If you got a place to hard mount it, which in these smaller vehicles it's hard to do, it's zip tie is usually the way to do it. It has holes where you got a couple of spots and you can find like a wiring loom or something, a piece of metal under there and tuck it under the vehicle. We'll probably zip tie this one like that and then take this cable and tie it under the dash. Okay, now that we've installed an Ames unit on one of your regular vehicles, we're going to install one on your tug. Start out just like before at the fuel. Every one of them's a little different. This one you won't have to drill a hole because it's kind of obvious. It's right out here in the open. Recommend wire loom on any wiring that's around the engine or drive shaft or under the chassis for protection, just like the rest of the wiring in the vehicle. This is not a fit on, pretty tight. So looks like we got a good one this time. I'm gonna lay that right back behind the chase it right through here and through the grommet in the firewall. And then we can strap this in a couple of places so it's not moving around and touching the exhaust. Okay, now that we've installed the fuel ring and the cabling through the dash, which this is it right here, you will notice that I've already installed the Ames unit on the firewall, and now we're going to complete the cabling from the Ames to the fuel ring. Basically, take your cable. Of course, in a situation like this, you got to watch out for gas pedals and steering, but this is protected by this tube, so there's no abrasion there. Run it down through the dash. Out of the way of the gas pedal. And there again, you're doing one tank, so you'll do this corner port. It'll only plug in one direction, the way it's clocked. We'll tie this up later after we get the power cables run to it. Straighten this up a little bit. And we're going to take our module, which can only plug in one direction. Plug it in here. Plug it into the cable to the fuel ring. And that takes care of that part. We'll tie this up in a safe spot where it doesn't get nicked by anything. Now on this, this is a hardwire system. You don't have an OBD. So what you've got is these two cables. These are your data. On a situation like this, you'll be using the orange cable because that's your first port. Your blue is your second port, and we usually don't use the blue. And that's what this cable does. We route it basically the same way. Like I said, we'll straighten this out and put some loom on it after we get them all in here. That plugs in. Only one way to plug it in. You can't get it wrong. This bigger cable is your permanent hot, is your red. Black is your chassis ground. Brown is your wake up, and then this is for like an odometer. Mm-hmm. Run that the same way. It plugs into only one port it can go into, only one direction. Okay, now that we've got the wires routed in the loom and they're secured, and we've secured the cable to the fuel ring, when you're hardwiring a system in like this and it's not OBD, you have to ground it through a cable, which there's a ground wire here. On the cabling itself, there will be a tag that'll have codes as to what each wire corresponds to as far as what you tie it into. So we're going to put a lug on this black wire and ground it to the chassis ground. Okay, we'll get that tight. Now we're going to take our wiring harness and feed it through the firewall out to our power source. Okay, now we got the wiring harness through the dash. You notice I've cut the blue and the white and the green wire. Reason being, the green and the white are your odometer wires, which we're not using in this application. The blue wire is your second data wire, which we're using the orange in this application. Okay, we've got our red wire, which is a permanent hot to the Ames unit. You see I have an inline waterproof fuse holder here. We'll be attaching that to this permanent power on this solenoid right here. Right here I have the brown and the orange. The orange is your data wire to the Ames. The brown is the wake up for the Ames unit. There again, you also put an inline fuse on those two wires too to protect the Ames unit. Those will be attached to a switched hot on this solenoid, where when the key is on and the vehicle's running, it will wake up the vehicle and collect data, our engine hours. And when it's turned off, the unit will go to sleep. Okay, it's important to remember before making final connections to the vehicle power that you disconnect the batteries so we do not cause any shorts and harm any of the Ames equipment or the electronic equipment in the vehicle. Permanent hot. We'll tighten that up. Switched hot. Okay. Okay, now that I've got these connections tight, we want to take some wire loom and sheathe these wires to keep them from abrading on any of the metal surfaces and getting a short in them. But other than that, you've pretty much got a complete installed system.
Okay, so Scott, we've got our FMU set up outside. We've got a car ready to get fuel. The FMU takes information, collects it, sends it through our bridging system, which is nothing more than 2 antennas, and it comes into my office. So what do we have here? We got the software. How do I operate it? Tell me a little bit about that.
Okay, what you've got underneath your site right up here, when you click on it, you can pick the location that you're at, say Fort Worth, and double click on that, and then brings up down here underneath the configuration is basically your IP address for your FMU outside.
So that's its telephone number, right? That's how it communicates between the two.
Basic telephone number. Okay. This is the number that you'll be needing if you need to do any kind of troubleshooting, pinging the IP address, or you having problems with communication. This is how you find it. This is where you go to. And then what we need to do And we can close everything out and go over to your vehicles.
And this is my whole fleet, is that correct? That's actually, this is all three fleets,
Yes.
Marietta, Palmdale, and Fort Worth. So,
Oh, there's one. Right. Let's just pick this one right here. And now underneath this vehicle, this ID, this vehicle ID number is right here. Is the ID number that you assign to the vehicle. It could be an alpha character, numbers, or it can be a combination of both. So whichever way you want to go with it.
okay, so in the future, I've already talked to Palmdale and Marietta about this, but when we go to our new Maximo system, we're going to use alpha and numeric numbers. So I can put both of those in there, right?
Yes, you can put both of them
So
in.
this is a, let's see, it's a Ford Ranger
Ranger.
pickup. So that would be a PU 255 in our future database.
Yes.
Okay.
And then underneath your customer ID, you just use the drop-down menu, and you pick the site that you're at. Now, this 200 is your site, so you'll be clicking on that. And then you can put the vehicle year in here. And then underneath your vehicle make and model, like I say, you've already got some added in here, but if you have one that you don't, that's not in here, all you got to do is hit add, and it gives you an option to put enter make, and then you can enter the model.
Okay.
And then once you get that entered in, then you can close it.
So that's actually not a Chevrolet, that's a Ford, so we can go ahead and populate that, right?
And you gotta see, you have a Ford right there.
Yeah.
And then underneath the vehicle, you can pick it up, like say, what is it, the 150, 250?
Actually, I think it's a Ranger, so you may have to just list it as a pickup. I think it's in there. There you go.
There you go. So that's all you do for that. And then you also need to make sure that this box right here is checked if you're going to set it up as an Ames unit. And when you do that, it'll come up and give you a message, are you sure you want to install Ames? And you just hit yes.
What if I want to do both? What if I have right now a Pro Key assigned to that vehicle, and we have plans to install an Ames unit on it?
Yeah, that's what you've got over here. Authorization, you've got a Pro Key and a Ames. Both boxes will be checked.
Okay.
That way you can use both of them.
Great.
But if you notice when we did that, we've got a lot of extra little tabs up here.
Ah, okay.
And once you get that set up, then you can go over to your product. Underneath your product, you'll just hit this. You've got two products, 1, 2, which is unleaded, and then diesel, it's 2. Just pick the product you want, and it'll populate this letter, this here.
So if I was to have picked number 2, it would have populated diesel.
Yeah, you pick 2, it
Oh,
said diesel.
okay.
So we want unleaded. And then you've got right here your daily product allocation, which you've got it set for 100. That means that's how many gallons they can get per day.
Okay.
And then you've got a transaction limit. This is per transaction. So if they use 50 gallons, they can only get 50 gallons twice
Gotcha.
a day. And then it'll lock them out for that day. The next day, they can go right back in and start getting fuel again.
Okay.
So it's not going to shut them down for a month or something. You don't have to go in there and change anything. And then underneath your Pro Key here, we just need to make sure your odometer is checked. You're not going to be using user ID, so we'll just uncheck that.
So no more badging out there at the fuel pumps, huh?
No more badges. Now, next field will be your miscellaneous. Now, under your miscellaneous, you have basically your license. You can put right in here your asset number that you want to put on. And under here, you can just do a description like, so you've got do not license. This is a vehicle, I guess, you leave on the
Yeah, this is something that would stay within the property gates.
Yeah.
So like if I was to have a vehicle that actually left the property, I could populate that with a license plate number and a registration month. And
Yes, registration month and then the site.
and what do we use that for? What does that
This
use?
just helps you identify when you're doing your monthly inventory to where you can actually bill out and pay taxes on for those vehicles that go on road. For those that are not on road, you don't have to worry about paying taxes for.
Oh, okay. That's just another
That's-
accounting tool
yeah,
so that we can save money and not pay taxes on the vehicles that don't leave the property.
Yeah, saves you money. Underneath your odometer field, it would be next. Now you've got a current odometer. Now if you know the odometer field, you can actually enter the odometer number here. If not, should populate after you download and they drive it a little bit. They'll fill up a couple times. It'll start populating. When you're out there, first program one, it may ask you to enter the odometer. Well, if you're doing the aims, it shouldn't
it'll
ask you.
capture it,
It'll
right?
capture it. But if you're doing the Pro Key, it may ask you twice to
Okay.
enter the odometer. All it's doing is just verifying that the person that's filling it up entered the right number.
Okay.
And you can check this, do preventive maintenance, and this is just the same basic thing. You need to put your PM range. Now your PM notification, this right here will basically tell you about 250 miles before you get to 3,000 that you need maintenance on.
Oh, so it'll warn me when my PM is coming due, so that we can.
You can get the vehicle in the shop.
Right. Okay. So he
And
can kind of
also-
plan for that. Also, he
Yeah.
can go back to his manager and say, "Hey, PM's coming up. I just got a notification at the fuel pumps. You know, we need to plan for this thing to be down."
Yeah, yeah.
Great.
So that helps them out a lot. So once we get all that set up, we'll go over to the aims too. Underneath here, you're not going to be asking for ID, so we don't need to worry about that. You don't have a receipt printer. Now, down here, the feature, do you want them to be able to fuel with the engine on?
No.
Okay, then we leave that unchecked. And of course, we're not going to use a metric unit. So basically on here, we don't worry about doing a whole lot of anything.
Okay.
The only thing that we really need to worry about, it depends on the vehicles that you're using. If you're going to do most vehicles, you can do an engine run time, which will track all your engine run time.
So like idle time, whether the key's on or
Yeah,
off.
the
Okay.
keys on, or somebody's sitting there just running with the engine running.
Okay.
You can do an engine run time. Now, when you got something like that little tug that we've got, you need to make sure it's set up to analog. If it's hardwired in, it's not using an
okay.
onboard unit. So you need to make sure that's checked, and then of course, it should be set up to channel 1. So just make sure that is checked. Fuel range, this is basically the same thing. You can actually put your odometers, your preventive maintenance on it if you want to or not, but you've already got that on one of them, so
Right.
you really don't have to worry. But this will just kind of bring in that information for you, and you have up to 3 separate devices you can do.
So if you wanted to track PTO time or
You've got PTO time, you've got engine idle time, and
Engine
run
run.
time.
Okay.
So you have 3 different options that you can do. That's why you have 3 separate tabs here.
Okay, so we talked earlier about maybe programming a Pro Key with the AIMS unit. Tell me how we would program a Pro Key.
Okay, once you get everything in here set up the way you want to, usually I just tell everybody to go to the main menu. You want to program this key, we'll just do this one. We'll do encode, and you'll see this window here pop up. You just take your key, push and hold until it says Pro Key encoded successful, and then you do OK. You can also go over to where it says Pro Key here, and it's actually going to read the Pro Key. Just take the key and push it in, and make sure you've actually got it programmed the way you want it to.
Oh, okay, great.
See, there's an internal key number, which actually this key right here has an internal number that every time you have to program another key, it changes that number. So if, for instance, they lose this key, you go out and reprogram this, it changes the number. So if this key is ever found, it cannot be used.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so after we get that program, though, we need to probably identify what
Yeah.
unit it goes to, huh?
Yes.
So-
Identify it as quick as you can, because if not, you're going to be you'll lose it. But you can always come back and read the keys.
Okay, so we would put this in as unit 255, and that would
255.
be assigned only to unit 255.
And when you're using the keys, the odometer is also recorded on there.
Oh, okay.
So when you go out there and use the key, after you enter the mileage, it's going to ask you to insert the key again. You insert it, and it'll program the mileage on it. It'll
Very
keep
nice.
track that way.
Very nice.
And you can actually read it here. So,
Okay.
and then just click no, and it'll get you out of the system.
Okay, well, great, Scott. That's good information. I think we pretty much covered everything we need at this point. I guess the next step maybe is to go out and see what our FMU does on the display and see how to program some AIMS units.
Okay.
Okay, so Pat, we've just installed the AIMS unit on the unit behind us. What's it take for this thing to be fully functional for the user?
Okay, Daryl, it's actually a very, very simple process. The only pieces that we'll need is the programming pro key and the programming hose tag. When the tech installs the aim, pulls it up to the fuel island, everything's going to program off of the FuelMaster unit. I need for him to calibrate, get the mileage off the odometer of the vehicle. Then it's a simple process. We're going to insert the programming hose tag onto the tank ring.
Okay.
Close proximity is fine. It doesn't have to touch, but somewhere within 2 inches of the tank ring. Then we're going to insert the Pro key. We choose the aim option, program option. The FuelMaster sees the aim to be programmed. It's going to prompt you now for a vehicle ID. So you look at your vehicle ID number, 184. Insert the vehicle ID, enter. The aim is now programmed. So the aim programming takes just but a few seconds. Then we're going to calibrate the odometers and the chronometer so we get proper mileage and proper hours off of it. So the first thing we're going to do is calibrate the odometer. It's option 1. Yes, we want to calibrate it. We took that mileage at 10,530. Enter. Yes. Odometer is now complete. We're going to program the chronometers now for the hour meters. So we're going to program recalibrate runtime on a light duty vehicle, Daryl. All we're going to do is start the clock. So because there's no hour meter installed in the onboard computer on a light duty, we're just going to press 1 and that will start our hour meter time function on the aim. Then we're going to exit out of the program. That's it. We're completely programmed and the vehicle is now ready to fuel.
That easy. Interesting. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's review. We've added Unit 184 to our fleet software. We've added the AIMS unit, and we've programmed the AIMS unit. So now we need to test. Before you give it to any customer, this is a good idea to do to prove that functionality is there. Once I install the handle, we should hear a series of beeps. That means that the pump is then activated. We can then turn it on and receive fuel. Now that we've heard the beeps, that indicates that the pump is now activated. Let's give it a shot. Let's see if we can get some fuel. Ah, success. Thanks for coming by. I hope this has been a great training video. From Fort Worth, I'm Daryl Geiken. Have a great day.